Hey, and welcome to Surviving the Holidays. If this is your first holiday season without a loved one, we know it can be really, really hard, and it's sad and it's scary, and we're really, really sorry. But that's why we want to help navigate this season with you so that you can go through the holiday season with joy, with a little bit of peace. And that's why I'm really excited to talk to an expert all about grief, because she'll be able to help us think through how we can navigate grief during Thanksgiving, Christmas, into the new year. And she'll also help us learn how to prioritize our mental health and say no so that we can honor our loved ones and move forward this season. So make sure you stick around to the end for that. And hey, we really want to help you survive the holidays. So check out the description for tons of links for resourcing and other things to help you get through the holiday season. Let's jump in.
Hi everybody, my name is Katie Bailey. I'm one of the chaplains for Lovewell Hospice, and I'm also their bereavement coordinator, which means that I spend a lot of time walking people through grief. And so today, as we look at the holidays and the things coming up, I want to talk about ways to survive the holidays if you're grieving someone. And maybe you're grieving someone who's passed. Maybe you've just received a bad diagnosis, or your loved one has received a bad diagnosis, and there's a lot of pressure on this holiday. There's a possibility that you're grieving a relationship, that you thought that this was going to be a special season, and the relationship isn't there anymore, and so it's just going to look different. And so my hope today is to provide some information that's going to help you navigate this holiday season, that you're going to have some tools in your tool belt, and that you can go forward with some confidence in what this season has for you and what it holds. And so the first big picture piece of advice that I would love to give you is to be very aware of extremes. I think a lot of times extremes are easy, and so we gravitate towards them. Whether it is, I'm going to go to every single party and event that I'm invited to, or I'm not going to go to any party or event that I'm invited to. Those are extremes that tend to be unhealthy. It's okay to pick up each item and day by day examine it and decide what's best and most healthy for you in that moment. So the first within that is that I want you to be kind to yourself. When you're grieving, grief can feel like you're going crazy. It can feel like you're losing your mind. And so oftentimes people want to isolate when they feel that way, or they don't really know how to reach out or how to talk about it. And we can also be really cruel to ourselves when we're in seasons of grief. We have expectations for ourselves that we don't have for anybody else. And so be kind. I want you to think of yourself as someone who is going through something incredibly difficult and doing the best that they can. Have grace for yourself. Be kind to yourself. I want you to be very thoughtful and mindful about your needs. I want you to take the time to reflect what you need, and don't try to anticipate what you're going to need tomorrow or a week from now. Think about what you need in the moment. Think about what you need for that day. So if you're invited to a party or an event, it's okay to tell the host or hostess, like, I'd like to come. I'm really going to need to see how I feel that day. It might not be the best yes for you. You also can communicate with people like, hey, I'm going to come. I might need to leave the room. I might need a space to just be by myself and collect my thoughts during the big holiday party or during the company party. Please know that that's okay, and that is an incredibly reasonable thing for you to do. I also want you to keep in mind that you have to respect your body during a season of grief. This means getting plenty of sleep and eating well, being cognizant of alcohol and drug use. When we're grieving, our body and our brain is searching for a new normal, and these substances can be more addictive during seasons of grief than they would be otherwise. So be cognizant of the way that you're treating your body, and please be kind to yourself. I want to give you some ideas and some ways that you can honor your loved one during the holiday season. A lot of times this was a very family or friend-rich time for us. And as we go into it, there's a lot of fear of like, well, how are we gonna navigate this now that our loved one is not gonna be there? And so I just want to give you some ideas. Consider them. Please feel free to make them your own. You can take all of them or none of them. This is just to help you think through what's going to make this holiday season meaningful for you. And the first one is to just talk about your loved one. Oftentimes the people around you are trying to gauge what you need from them in that moment. And so when you're comfortable talking about your loved one, when you're sharing stories, when you're talking about things that they would have loved or why you wish they were there with you, it gives the people around you permission to talk about them too. It helps communicate with the other people in the room that you want to mention them and remember them in the space that you're in. You can also start a journal where you're either just writing down your feelings and your thoughts, or some people find it helpful to write letters to their loved one. They miss them dearly and they wish they were there. And if you're a person of faith, this is a great opportunity to remind yourself that one day I'm gonna get to tell you these stories. But for now, I'm gonna write down why I wish you were here, what we did today, what you would have liked about this, what you might not have liked. And it's a wonderful way to remember your loved one and to feel connected to them during the holiday season. You can honor your loved one with a seat at the table. Sometimes people will even donate food to those who are in need. They'll donate a meal or their portion of presents or gifts that would have been given. They'll give to charities in honor of their loved one, or sometimes even a literal seat at the table where they remember that this is where they used to sit and this is where they would have been. It's bittersweet, but it's a way to acknowledge just the emptiness that's there and instill care and love for the people that are around you that you're celebrating with. You can think through the traditions that they enjoyed and choose one day or one tradition to honor that person with. Some families choose to watch their loved one's favorite movie while eating their loved one's favorite snack. Maybe there was a tradition that was just especially meaningful to that person. This is an opportunity to get together with the other people that love and miss them and think through how to carry that tradition forward in their honor. It's also okay during this season to look at the family traditions and decide to add a new one in order to honor your loved one, or even change the traditions and how you carry them out. This is for you. This is something that's going to make you feel more connected to the person that you've lost and help honor them during this season. And then lastly, I want to remind us to be mindful of others during the holiday season. A lot of times people want to know what you need, and it's really hard to express that in the moment. It's perfectly acceptable to have a list of things that would be helpful from those that love you and care about you, so that when they ask in the moment, you're not surprised by the question and you have some practical, helpful things for people so that they know how to treat you in a way that is meaningful to you and is helpful as you grieve during the holidays. So for example, it's okay to communicate to a host or a hostess, I'm gonna need to step out at some point. If I do that, would you give me some space? Don't follow me. Or maybe you've identified somebody in the room who's a safe person who you can be real with, and you say, if I do step out, I want you to follow me and not everybody else. I don't want to disrupt the party or whatever it is that we're doing, but I would love some company. Would you come sit with me? Or, hey, would you help me navigate awkward social situations? Just stand with me. And if I get stuck in a conversation, help pull me out. Or I don't need you to hover. I want to be social and I want to be happy and walk around during this party. Like, it's okay to leave me alone. Just know your needs well enough to be able to communicate them plainly to people who care for you and who want to help you. I'd also like to encourage you to not compare yourself to other people. Everybody grieves differently. You have your own grief journey, and that's okay. You can't hold yourself to anyone else's expectations in grief, and they shouldn't be doing that for you as well. Grief is not a race, and there's not really a finish line. So be really careful about the expectations that you're holding for yourself and how you're comparing yourself to others who might be grieving as well. I have one quick story that I want to share with you as we close our time together. I was sitting with a lady who had just lost her mother, and she was processing all the complicated emotions that come with that. And she shared this story about her friend group. She's had this wonderful friend group for most of her life. They've been incredibly supportive. They've been involved in the life of her kids and her family. And she said, most of them just kind of left when my mom was sick. They were uncomfortable and they didn't really know what to do. And so they told me to reach out if I needed anything, and I didn't know how. And she's like, there's this one friend who didn't know me that well. We weren't that close at the time, but she just showed up. And she offered to sit with my mom while I went and ran errands or did what I needed to do for that day. And it was so precious and meaningful to me that she just knew how. And she kind of paused and she's like, I guess the reason she knew how to do that is because she had also lost her mom to a very similar illness. Sometimes grief has the ability to deepen our understanding of other people and to make us more compassionate. Grief is hard. No one chooses to grieve someone or something because it's deeply unnerving, it's unpleasant. But it has the ability to grow us into the type of people who see others well and know how to step in and aid other people who are also grieving. During this season, you're going to be faced with some landmines that I can't prepare you for. Maybe you will find yourself surprised by some of the things that trip you up or things that are hard that you weren't expecting to be hard. It's gonna be okay. There's gonna be people around you that care for you. You need to communicate to them what you need the best that you know how. To be kind to yourself, and ultimately know that grief has the opportunity to make us kinder, gentler, and more compassionate people. And this is my hope for you, especially during this holiday season.